joining tonight. Thanks for joining tonight. We're going to try to keep this fairly informal and really just going to give a couple updates. So this was at the about the seasonal assessment training.
First off, has everybody been able to sign up for their SITSI and make an account?
Well, I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been able to.
Okay. If we'll get to that in a minute.
Just lack of time or just unable to?
No, I didn't get the email back from them.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
Megan from DWR has to approve each one individually. She has all the names of everyone that signed up. Sometimes it can take several days.
Okay, I only did it yesterday morning. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go more than say 3 days,
Bumper again?
4 days, no, just let us know and we'll make sure it
Okay.
happens. So, yeah, that's not something that SITSI manages. It's Megan at DWR. Because she has to assign the loops to you, so you don't have like access to do assessments on every loop in the state of Virginia.
So we'll just
So,
give you the access to the 3 loops
yeah.
that we are overseeing.
So over the course of this series of discussions and trainings, this next steps sign, we're getting near the end here. This is the online training of the seasonal assessments, and the next step is to unleash you all after we give assignments starting in April. So April, May, I think is what we should shoot for, to go out and have fun and do assessments and help DWR. So I want to just hit a couple of things tonight. So we have some very exciting news about the Gloucester Loop. We're going to cover that. We're going to talk a little bit more on the sign-up sheet. We added one extra column there to ask for a little more information before we put together the kind of the assignments. We're going to do a quick overview of the seasonal visits and then walk through the SITSI app for reporting, not on a mobile device, because I don't have it set up for me to do that, but it will be doing it from the web-based SITSI. The mobile app's the same thing, just on a mobile device, and then have some discussion. So the Gloucester Loop news, and let me see if I think I have to stop sharing and then share again. I'm lost here. Could I not get to? Sorry. So the Gloucester Loop, can everyone see the DWR site?
Yeah.
Yep. So cool thing happened today. See this CGL 01A, Brent and Becky Bulbs, is now, as of today, officially on the Gloucester Loop. 2 days ago, Machicomico State Park was added. So if you go to like Brent and Becky's, boy, my computer's being slow.
It is being very slow.
It is real nice, pretty picture of Brent and Becky's. It has all the information. All the birds, but nice description and everything. So that's pretty cool. So I wanted to share that. think the next thing we had, you remember it, I think it was the sign up sheet.
Mm,
So the sign up sheet that we had out that, and I can send out a reminder link if people have lost the link. Thank you for everyone that filled it out. You will notice on the Gloucester loop, I added the Brent and Becky's and Machi Kamiko. So if you have selected individual sites and you want to add that, that's great. If you are already selected an entire loop, you don't need to do anything. But if those two sites appeal to you and you want to add them, please do that. We're not sure yet if DWR wants us to do an initial assessment first of those. If they do, we'll probably get that done so people can start doing the seasonal assessments in April. We've also put out here a new column called rotate ? So when we go to set people up on assignments, one way we can do it is if the people that get certain sites go back and do those sites each of the 4 seasons in a year. So that is what I call fixed, where you always go to was it St. John's Landing, okay,
Yeah.
or whatever. Another way to do it is if you've signed up for many sites or entire loops, is to where we rotate you around. You get a different experience at different seasons. If you want to be on that rotational, if that's your preference, you don't need to do anything. We'll assume that to be the case. But if you want to have, if you've signed up for multiple sites and you want to be fixed, you want those locked in for each of the 4 seasons of the year, then come here and type in fixed for your name. The other thing I'd ask people to do, especially if you signed up for entire loops, if you can, sorry, we have our dogs are going a little crazy.
Outside.
Kick them outside here. Crazy dogs.
That should be quieter.
So if you've signed up for an entire loops, you can come in here and put a maximum number of sites per quarter. So like right now, we got too many dogs here. Right now, if you haven't indicated, we just don't know whether you want to do 1, 2, or 15 sites. So that's something, if we, over the next week, people could go back into this if they haven't put down the maximum number of sites. If you want to be on a fixed or no rotation, let us know that. And if you're interested in Machi Kamiko or Brent and Becky's, indicate that.
Dave, question.
Yep.
The question is that where you're talking about maximum number of sites, if they don't put anything in there, then you can assign them as many as you need, right?
Correct. And if that's what you wish, you don't need to do anything. We will obviously try to not overload people. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's just, for some reason, if you only want to do 3, and we don't know that, we may assign more than 3.
And I
if the
think
needs
everybody
are-
will be working in groups.
Yeah, and
also.
I think the intention is to have people working in groups. So let me just look at, let me Back to Zoom. Need to share again. You see that again, Bill?
Yes,
Okay,
full size now.
okay. So for the seasonal site overviews, again, I showed this at the last session, but before you go out to a site, it's good practice to go on to the site webpage and just review it. Just become familiar with it. Even if you're very familiar with the site, it's just good practice to go look at the webpage. So you go out to the site. Obviously, you'll have to coordinate with the other people that have that site with you. It's really about a quick check of the Virginia Birding and Wildlife Trail signage. So a question came up the other day about the road signage versus the site signage. DWR is no longer
Putting up roads.
putting up road signage, directional signage to the sites. It's very costly to do that with VDOT. And so they want us to assess the current road signs that are there, the directional signage. And so if it's missing, just state that it's missing. If it's wrong, state that it's wrong. But if nothing happens to correct it, don't get upset. They're just not, they just don't have the funding to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for each loop.
And I will warn you right now, in both Matthews and Gloucester loops, the signage is poor.
At the sites especially.
Yes.
Very few have site signage. The site signage is the one, Bethel Beach actually still has one where it says, okay, this is a Virginia Birding and Wildlife Trail site, and most of them have the site number and name underneath them. That's the one they're more concerned about, and depending upon the location, they may replace them. In places where there's a high chance of it being vandalized or stolen, they probably won't. But on like Machi Comico, they're going to bring over a sign for there, and I'm sure Brent and Becky's. Yeah. So that's about the site, the signage. So it's really about going out, walking the site. Again, the different sites are different sizes. Bethel Beach is a much bigger experience than, say, Horn Harbor, where you get out of your car and it's just kind of a road at the end of
You're there.
an end of a road going into the water. So you need to take some time to go check out the location. There are some locations, there could be some in Mattaponi Loop, not sure yet, that where there could be multiple trails. And so what they ask is that, maybe hike one trail per visit and just rotate, so that over the course of the year, you've gone through all the different trails. So it's really about just getting out, walking the site. The big thing here is observe birds and wildlife and enter them into eBird iNaturalist.
And see if there's any obstructions at the site,
Yep.
anything that needs to clean up, and
Yep.
that all goes in the report. Look to see if there are no trespassing signs being put up around. That all needs
Yeah.
to go into the report. They need to know if these sites are becoming inaccessible.
Yeah. And so that's, especially safety concerns. If you, what's some examples of safety
Down
concerns?
trees or
Down
something.
trees or,
A lot of trash or garbage at the site.
yeah. But it's the safety concerns or something. I mean, if you see something that's just not safe, that's probably, they want us to contact the site owner. If you don't know who that is, get with Carrier Eye and we'll,
Yeah, just email us. and
we'll
we can-
follow through with that. But it's really we're DWR's eyes and ears on the ground, and And we know like New Point Comfort and Matthews,
Mhm.
owned by the Nature Conservancy, sometimes it's a year or so before they get down there. I know they have someone local watching it,
Exactly.
but they appreciate getting hearing back from us that everything's good, or hey, there's an issue with the boardwalk.
Mhm.
So just take a mental picture of the impressions of the site. Take real photos if you would like. There is an opportunity to upload them into SitSci. Don't just go taking pictures of the site if everything is fine. But if you see an issue or have a concern, especially take photos for the report. And so if you have SitSci on a mobile device and you want to make the entry while you're at the site, that's fine. That's your choice. Or you can come back home and complete it on a computer.
Yes, and even if you're on your mobile and you upload it, there is no issue. You can get into your account on SitSci and you can update and change
You
information.
can edit it.
around.
Yeah, you can edit it. The other thing I'll say is because we're going to have teams of people going out, I think we've decided, we don't want to have just one person, at minimum of two. So that's something, you'll have to coordinate with your partner or the partners when you want to go and what time and who to meet up. But only one person
Only one entry.
makes the entry in SitSci. So you'll have to decide that. It may be something you want to rotate so everyone gets a chance during the year or in a different site. But it's, DWR does not need multiple entries of the same site in each quarter. They want one entry per site, per loop, per quarter. So I'll jump back to let's see. Okay. So when you go to SitSci and log into SitSci, you have to pick under My Projects, you pick this Adopt a Trail, VBWT
Yes.
Adopt a Trail.
Please stay off the beta.
They don't have access to
Oh,
that.
okay.
That's the beta is going away. It was something that was tested last year. So that'll bring you to this page. And you can see there's a home, there's different tabs here. To start an assessment, you hit add data and pick seasonal visit checklist. And so that brings you up. You pick a location. So let's do Matthews Loop. And now you'll see that the map goes to the Piankatank River Landing. That is the first site on the CML 01 site, I believe, for the Matthews Loop. When you go, when you pick or when you type in different sites, it'll on the Matthews Loop, it'll always show this.
Ignore the map.
Just ignore the map, other than the first site of the loop will show up on the map.
They cannot make that change.
Yeah,
They cannot make that coordinate to the site that you're working on. It's just not working for them.
We spent an hour trying to resolve that, and we were told
Yeah.
doesn't work, just ignore it. So then you pick your affiliation, find Middle Peninsula. So you click that, and site number. So we said,
Which one you want?
let's do So it's going to be Coastal, Matthews, CML,
CMT,
CMT. Okay.
which one?
I don't know. Just
Oh, one.
Oh, one. Oh, one.
Tank River.
And I'm not going to try to spell Piankatank. But you could type out the name of it. P tank.
No, right there.
Oh, yeah. Site number, that's right. And then Piankatank. What was it? P. You got to give me a hard one.
I'm sorry, PIANKA tank
T.
river.
Landing, right?
Yep.
So you'd go through and do that. So this is where, having reviewed the website, and let's say you want to, you saw something on the online guide that you think ought to be revised, you just type it in here. One example of that could be some of these sites have, what do you call them, facilities or things like that. Like if all of a sudden there's a porta potty there and it's not listed on a thing, you could say has a porta potty.
Like Kapahusik Beach Landing
Yeah.
has a porta potty part of the year there. So
Yeah.
you could make note of
You
that.
could make note of things like that.
Yeah,
but-
Bill.
We've got a question that popped up. They want to know, where can they find that number that you're using?
Sure.
It's right on the VW.
It's
Virginia.
It's on the
Birding Road.
Virginia Birding and Wildlife Trail. If you go pull up the loop, it'll on the loop map, it will have the numbers. We're also going to put together little cheat sheets that can be printed off. We'll try to do that in the next week or two, so people have them. The other thing, we talked to DWR the other day, and they are in the process of getting this form in a paper format. So when we have that available, we will get it out to you, because I can imagine some people want to put it on a clipboard and go out and take notes on the form. So it's
right here. On the
Yep.
sites. On the site.
it's on the sites in the loop under the loop main page. So you would put in any revisions. Right now we're in the winter. Why that's, you know why that's not?
Maybe it doesn't like you have a date, so you're all right. It's
Oh,
a date
okay.
up
Yep.
top, okay.
And then it will, how many people? So let's say we just have 2. Why that's not. And how much time? Say 30 minutes to an hour. You would select that. And then it will ask if you submitted an eBird checklist, so yes or no. If you answered yes, they want the checklist ID number. If you've noticed on the individual site pages, they actually have a link to the eBird site. So Bill, you have a question?
No, just a clarification. For the hour, when they say it was 30 minutes to an hour, that's time that they're spent on the site, not their travel time that they can count for Master Naturalist.
Correct.
So they need to be careful that they don't try and
Yep.
count the same time for both.
Yes, correct. Yeah, this is not what you reported. This is the time at the site. So the eBird checklist, any observations into into iNaturalist, yes or no. And then they have one here, did you observe any rare or charismatic species during the visit you think DWR should add to the site description? So, a yes or no. If you answered yes, give them more details. I mean, it's a pretty simple form to use. You know, how many other visitors did you see? Your Bethel Beach, it could be way over 20 certain times of the year. Other places, probably minimal to none. And then, so it's a lot of questions on, you know, what do you think about this site? Would you electively visit this again for personal purposes, not for the purposes of doing this survey? So there are probably some sites that you may say, you know, nah, there's better places. So you know, you wouldn't, but other ones that you could. So this is your personal opinion. There's no right or wrong question. If it's with a group, I guess you need to come to some kind of consensus within the group of what you want to state here. Would you recommend this to a friend? You know, rate your satisfaction with the wildlife viewing.
What do you do?
Yeah, I'm not clicking on things. Then about your satisfaction with the habitat diversity seen at the site. So it's, you know, they're trying to get an idea of these various aspects. So, you know, maybe they'll drop certain sites if they're just poor sites. But I think they, you know, they want to know, you know, how good are these sites? Your satisfaction with the amenities. Some sites have no amenities. Other sites, you know, like Machicomico or others have a lot of amenities. And then your overall experience with the site. And then they want you, if you had any negative responses, to add more detail. And then we get into the safety concerns. You would type them in. And then this question, you know, do you recommend removing this site? We have removed several sites from Matthews, possibly another one coming off of Gloucester. But it's, you know, that's part of why DWR wants this out there, is to be their eyes and ears at the site and help them improve the trail. So if you want to think it ought to be removed, you need to have a good explanation. Now, DWR is not going to remove the site because you told them you think it ought to be removed, but what would happen is at some point they would go out and physically visit the site to confirm your observations. We've, since we started a year and a half, 2 years ago, we've recommended 3 removals. They've removed 2 and have not removed 1. So anyway, then down here, this is where you can add pictures. If you took pictures of a safety issue or whatever, you would upload the image and then write a description. So they have couple places for 3 pictures, and then you would hit submit. I'm not going to hit submit because this is not a reel, but it's a pretty simple form. You know, any questions or anything that anyone would like me to go over?
I just caught up with a glitch on the app, so everybody stick to the computer. I have to get with Megan on this. It's not bringing up our locations when I log in.
I don't think it does. I think
Yeah,
you have to.
no.
I think you have to manually.
No, you have to have those. You have to choose a.
I don't think it. I think that's why you have to type in the site name and number.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
trust me,
Okay.
there's a problem there.
Okay. So any questions or anything? I haven't been watching the chat. I know Bill has.
That
Dave,
looks pretty good. Thank Dan because he put in the website to help people find the locations and everything else. So
Cool.
Good, good.
Cool. Thank you.
Dave, can you go back to the part about, did you enter into something into eBird?
Sure. Okay, so did you submit an eBird checklist? Yes or no?
And you
Yeah.
have to do that through eBird.
What's the checklist ID number? I don't understand that. The next one down.
Okay. hold
I
on.
don't either. I'm not a big eBirder. It's the checklist ID number in eBird.
Whenever you submit a checklist in eBird, it assigns a checklist number to it. And you
Then-
can view it on the website, and and I think you can do it in the app by clicking on your checklist. And then on the time, it'll show you the ID somewhere.
The
Oh,
checklist.
Yeah.
At the top of the page up there, it'll show you the checklist number in tiny little font.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
And
Yeah.
you plunk that
You-
number
you-
into
Your
there.
eBird actually has your checklists, because every time you do one, as Dan said, you get a checklist for that.
Yep.
Trip that you make. So you can go back and look at your history and see your checklists.
Yeah, because you always,
Mhm.
when you enter things in, I know you get a checklist. Okay. Any other questions on the form?
How responsive is DWR to this stuff?
You mean time-wise or?
I mean, going out and having done a couple of Mattapanai sites last year, they're pretty run down.
Mhm.
And it was very vague on who you're supposed to contact. And then I was doing it by paper, and the whole thing seemed like kind of, well, is anyone coming and is anyone paying attention? So I'm not trying to throw doubt into this, and I think this is a fabulous thing that you're doing, but you guys
Yeah.
are getting results, obviously, and are they
So-
being responsive?
But DWR doesn't actually manage the site, so they're not going to do any upkeep on the sites other than their signage. So, that's part of we have to figure out who is actually in charge of the sites. That's some of the background information on the initial visits that we do. And then if we see problems, then we need to get in contact,
Yeah.
um,
But like,
or let DWR
I mean,
know.
I actually emailed some of the quote unquote owners of these sites and got
Yeah.
nothing. So,
Again, they haven't been done for quite some time, so if the owners might not actually be the responsible
yeah,
party anymore.
it's the initial, this is why we're, the initial site visits are can be extremely complicated and
And time
timely.
consuming.
And that's why we're kind of keeping that as a separate issue, and Jimmy and Hurricane and I know you're also involved in that, but yeah, that can be very frustrating at times,
Yeah.
because it's been 20 or 30 years since DWR set these up. The
That's-
coastal region was the first to go in the state. And the owners may have changed, or if it's owned by a county, it's who do you even start to contact at the county?
Mhm.
You call the county and they don't even know, and so it can be quite a bit of work.
Right. And not having done any of the work on the Mattapanai loop yet, I don't
Yeah.
know any.
Well, we know one is going to be really easy, and that's Dragon's Lair. So
Yeah,
I can run.
yeah, so
we know right who to call.
Yeah, we know who to call.
Where you live. Yeah.
We're actually, I think, on this Zoom tonight. So yeah, so anyway, but if you're talking about how responsive is DWR, when we submit things, so nothing has been submitted to DWR on the Mattapanai loop whatsoever, nothing. You may have done some, but nothing ever got back to us.
Yeah.
Part of the intent of them going to use SitSci is when we would snail mail them forms, they had to then wait for a was they had a temporary person,
Yeah, they did.
entering them into a database and everything for them to get access. And so use of the SITSI is greatly going to speed things up. So they're not having to spend their time just doing administrative tasks. And so time will tell, but we have found Megan to be fairly responsive, usually within a couple days if we alert her.
Yeah.
We get back, but DWR has, I think, 2 people assigned to their entire
On this project.
watchable wildlife group.
One on the eastern and one on the western.
Yeah, and this is one of the many parts of their watchable wildlife program. So it's, I mean, this is why they need volunteers to do the work we're doing, to amplify their limited staffing.
And Megan just lost her intern, so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
CJ, I see you have your hand up.
And my mic on. I guess that was the Virginia, where you had the spreadsheet with all the different
Yep.
sites. Did you just fill in everybody who's interested? Because I never was able to locate that and fill that in with my name.
I think you sent the information and I entered you for that.
Thank you.
So if you want to modify anything, just let me know and
We have you down for the Gloucester
we'll
loop.
do that. Then we did that for Hurricane too. For some reason,
He could not get on.
he can't get on Google things.
Okay, because I'm not real familiar what the Gloucester Loop is, so.
Yep. Okay. I think we have you down
Hi,
for,
Dave.
yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done talking with CJ. Were
I'm
you
done.
still checking on something? Because, oh, okay, you all are done.
Yep,
I
we're
had a
done.
question. Okay, I had a question about the sites on the Matthews Loop. You said that you had recommended 3 to be taken off. How did you make that recommendation? So, we're being expected to, look at the site and decide whether or not it needs to be taken off. And I just, what sites were they in
So,
Matthews that you
yeah, so-
recommended? I'm very familiar with all the landings.
Yeah, so there were 2, and maybe Carrie can bring them up. They're still listed on the loop. It's just they have a note there that they're being in the process of being removed.
So Mojack Bay. was-
Mojack Bay was one, and New Point Wharf. And so the seasonal assessments, it would be very rare that you would recommend for something to be removed.
Right.
During the initial assessments, because nothing had been done for, like I said, 20 to 30 years. In the 20 to 30 years that those were set up,
There's no real land there.
there's no land.
Right.
I mean, you get to the end of, you get to a road and there's houses blocking your view.
I'm familiar with, but yeah, I'm familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
so we recommended them, and Megan actually came out and spent an hour or so trying to find the Mojack Bay
Yeah, she
and
could not.
because the directions were taking her to, but there was nothing there. It's no longer a usable site. The
On the Gloucester
Right.
loop,
Gloucester Loop,
Okay.
we had recommended that Severn River Landing be removed. I think Jack and Carol had suggested that. We suggested it. I think Megan went out, and in the time period between us recommending and her going out, Gloucester County had cleaned up the site, garbage wise. Yeah,
that's
so-
still kind of an issue.
so that's one that we're watching. The Roswell ruins
May be coming off.
may be coming off, and I know some of you may be Roswell people, but we have, not only us, but Jack and Carl had could not get in contact with the folks there. And then,
They're closed down 5 months out of the year.
yeah, 5 months out of the year, they're closed. And then when they are open, their hours are like not birding
Where
hours.
they're 10 to 4.
And there's an $8 per person entry fee. And so for all those reasons, we just don't think it's a good site. And the indications we got was they wouldn't even waive the fee for people doing the
We were
assessments.
gonna have to wait till
Yeah,
April to get in,
so-
so, yeah.
So that's why we suggested to Megan that be reconsidered.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for, that answered my question,
Yeah.
because we're not really making those recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, the question is there, so if the situation changes, but I would say for the most part, that's one that, I mean, if you had a very good reason, make your recommendation. But the initial assessments went through all that.
So when you click that box, yes or no, do you recommend the removal of this site from the Birding and Wildlife Trail? It's not that it happens automatically. Megan will go out and do an assessment of the site herself to see, and she'll talk to people.
She'll
Talk to us
probably
and-
first
and-
call us and ask
Yeah.
us what's going on
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Has something really changed with that site?
Yeah.
That we want to get rid of it.
so
But
I
the
think.
important, I think the
Right.
important thing we're doing is we're going out and being her eyes and ears, so she doesn't have to walk around and check every site. She's only
Yep.
checking those that we think may be in danger of being
Right,
taken down.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, because she just physically can't do it
Yeah,
with all the sites that she has.
she'd have to buy a
Maybe once a year.
buy a
maybe.
camper and
Yeah.
drive around. Yep. I think Rebecca has her hand up.
I was just wondering how the average citizen is supposed to even know about these trails. If there's signage, if there's no signage.
Yeah, so that,
That's a good question.
that's a good point. So we've actually talked to Megan, and I think like the Historic Rivers chapter put together a little brochure on theirs, but we could put together little brochures promoting these loops if we wanted to.
We were at a rest stop on 64, and we stopped in there, and they actually had some Virginia Birding and Wildlife loop trail guides
Yeah.
there, and they do have them that way. And we may have borrowed a few of them to put at
Yeah,
the park,
and
you know,
other
so-
places. But it's, you know, if you all have ideas, where we can,
How about writing an article for the Gazette Journal?
that would be another,
You're echoing. Yeah.
I know.
Are you, Bill?
Yep.
Yep.
Got another chat question. Do the loops have leaders?
Well, I think that's something that we're going to have to figure out, because yeah, you're gonna need
No,
not
no.
loops.
The loops,
yeah.
loops no longer have leaders,
Leaders, right.
coordinators.
The sites maybe will need a team leader.
Well, they'll be assigned.
Yeah.
But Carrie and I are serving as the coordinators
Of all-
for the 3 loops. Mattapanai, Jimmy, and Hurricane are co-leading the initial assessments. We decided that with SITSI and everything being submitted through SITSI, we really don't need to have individual loop leaders or coordinators that we call them. Any other questions?
That's the last question I saw.
Okay.
Well, I do have a question.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. So I went onto that site, the dwr.virginia.gov,
Mhm.
to look for that spreadsheet.
Oh, no,
Nope.
no.
Nope. Spreadsheet, I will send out a
Okay,
Google link for that. That's just something we.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
But you can go onto the SITSI app. You can play around with it. You can enter stuff. Just don't
She was talking
Yeah,
about
but I'm
the,
just saying for everybody else, don't submit it,
don't submit it.
you know?
Until
Okay, can
you're-
you tell us how you got onto that form you've just been filling out? Go back to where you,
So I literally just Googled SitSci. Went on their website, because I was previously on, it already had me signed on,
You log in.
huh?
but you would log in,
Yeah,
and then you would select the My Projects
my projects. Okay,
and then pick the Adopt a Trail. You should only see the Adopt a Trail unless you're also doing vernal pools
And
or other things, but
yes.
you pick it to get to this page. And then
Okay.
this is where you would hit the add data to enter that. So,
Okay.
up at the top has my
yep,
projects.
yep. So, I had one person contacted me the other day and they were just struggling. I don't know if it's a computer issue or whatever, but they were struggling to get on SitSci. If you're working with a team and others on the team can get on, we don't need everyone to be able to get on SitSci. So if for some reason someone just can't get on SitSci, that doesn't mean you can't participate in this. It's just you would have to rely on others on your team to do the data entry.
So, okay, who actually maintains each one of these sites? It's not DWR, it's the owner of the site, right?
Right,
Correct.
it varies from site to site. Some of them
And
are
so-
county. some
right.
are
And
legal.
are some of them private, or some of them, what's the scope of ownership?
So they can be private. I mean, Brent and Becky's was just added. It's a private for-profit
Rosewell is a
company.
private.
It's most of them are public, but they don't have to be. Some of them are foundations or nonprofit ownership. It really varies.
So what skin do they have in the game in promoting their site, or do they have any? 'Cause it's
So
it's sort
Brent and Becky's, when we reached out to them, they were, I forget the woman's name, but they were very excited. I mean, their location is a known birding location, and I would bet you that people that come in to do birding probably buy bulbs and things there.
Yeah.
So, not that we have any, but I know on some of the other loops in the state, there's some that were at bed and breakfasts. Somebody has a big garden area or a hiking trail, private hiking trail. So it really could be anything.
So in that sense, then, who markets them, and how do they know where they are? I mean, you talked about brochures being printed, but this sort of seems like a benign neglect thing run by DWR. And
It has been, and
Yeah.
I think that
They're trying to clean it up.
they're trying to clean it up now.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're valuing our input and helping them do this and market
Yes.
this.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're doing something that they value and they'll appreciate and they'll support us.
Oh,
in
yeah.
that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's
They want cheap labor. I mean, they want us to, yeah, it's good.
They don't have enough eyes and ears, and that's exactly what we are.
three
Okay.
3 years ago, there was one person that this was a fraction of their job, and now there's two people where it's probably 50% of their job. And they occasionally have what'd you call them, an intern
Intern.
to help them out. But
Okay.
it's just like everything else in the state, it's not heavily funded.
Okay.
And you got to remember too, that they're one of our key sponsors for Master Naturalists.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Yes.
We owe them and they owe us. That's good.
Yeah. And, so, I'll throw this out. I wasn't planning to talk about it, but, we are the ones that should look to market
Help market.
or help market that these trails exist in our areas. We,
Well, that's kind of where I was going with it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can make, like I said, Historic Rivers made a nice brochure on, I forget the name of the Historic Rivers Trail.
The loops.
You know, and we could put the generic brochure, it's like a single card stock about the entire state trail. We could get that from DWR and put that in different places. But if you really want a trail to be used, you'd create a trail specific brochure.
Right.
They kind of have the format for that. They would want to review that or have input into it. But that's something, if our chapter or individuals wanted to do, that could be done.
We might be able to put some of these brochures at visitor centers.
Yeah, visitor
Matthews and
centers.
Gloucester
Yeah.
Visitor Center.
Yeah, because my impression of going out and looking at some of these sites is that they're like these really cool places that are abandoned and no one knows they're there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
You're
like
not wrong.
it's a miracle that they're there, and it's
Yeah.
like this is like, well, something needs to be done so that people know they're there and people start coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a, you know, so DWR is starting, well, there's a reason their name changed from DGIF, Department of Inland Game and Fisheries, it was about hunting and fishing, to DWR, because the number of people that are doing wildlife viewing is significantly going up. The
Good.
number of people hunting and fishing is going down. So the state recognizes that this is an important, you know,
Ecotourism.
ecotourism or is important. You know, when we contacted Matthews County to talk about it, they're very positive about us doing this in the sites they own, because they realize this may bring people into the county that wouldn't otherwise, you know, Matthews is not in a derogatory, it's a dead end. I mean, the only reason you go to Matthews is because you're going to Matthews. There's nobody driving through it to get somewhere. And, you know, when you go there, you buy gasoline, you stop at the food store, you go have lunch. You're supporting the economy. So, you know, the local governments see this as a positive. And as master naturalists, we want to promote people doing ecotourism and getting into nature. So, you know, I think, you know, I know DWR sees the value, and I even believe the local governments see it.
Good.
Dave, you got another question?
Okay.
Jimmy?
Kat came on and said, for us, would it be useful to suggest where some stewardship might be helpful? And my first thought is, depends on who owns it.
Yeah.
They got to
So-
say yes.
Yeah. And so if we want to do stewardship at a location, that's between us, the chapter, and the owner of the site. We may inform DWR that we're doing it, but it's really for us to work out between the site owner.
And I don't think any site owners would
Say
not
no.
appreciate the fact if we went and picked up trash or something
Yeah.
like that at the site.
We should
It
do
would
that
be all-
anyway. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. It's just that we got to remember that there are owners.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little tricky.
I mean, I know the Matthews County sites that were owned by Matthews County, they were more or less, sure, you want to pick up trash? Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
You want to clean up the place? That's great.
Yeah.
Let me,
Jimmy has a question.
Jimmy.
Yeah, couple of things. And Kat touched on it. Dan also touched on it. Is there a project that would be like an umbrella for stewardship for these sites? Another thing, you know, what Dave was touching on with hunters, hunting licenses and fishing licenses. that is and historically, that has been the biggest funding for conservation in this state. So one of the switches also is Explore the Wild. So if you go to DWR's website, look for Explore the Wild, and you can buy it's not a license, but it's something where you're basically donating money to the conservation efforts. There's a lot of things that we can do. There are state forest tags. Of course, if you're going birding and you're just walking in one of our state forests, you don't need to buy a forest use stamp. But if you want to ride your bicycle, you should. You're supposed to.
Yep.
And one of the properties that we have up here in King and Queen, Dragon Run State Forest, is huge. And there are service roads throughout that you can walk. You can probably walk and spend a day and not see anybody else, but you'll see plenty of wildlife. And it's just, it's a part of being out in nature. So now I will say also a couple of our sites up here on the Mattaponi Loop, that, the state forest is something that I want to talk to Dave about adding to the loop.
Yep.
But we have a couple of places that are just a boat ramp.
Yeah.
So
Right.
very small area, but somebody's cutting the grass up there. I've never been up, maybe once or twice where it was a mess, but nobody trashes them, the places, and somebody does cut the grass. And it's big enough to park 4 or 5 trucks with a boat trailer. Really nice launches. So anybody that has water interests, I am certain you can see a lot of waterfowl once you get into the water, but there's so many trees and shrubbery around those areas that you can't see much out onto the water.
Yeah.
But that's just one of my things is we do need to support the conservation effort through the DWR, because as Dave said, hunting and fishing is a dying tradition. So somebody needs to step up, and I still buy my licenses even though I don't hunt. I still fish a little bit, but I know where the money's going. So it's a worthwhile effort. And I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah. I mean, the state is kicked around the idea of having an additional tax on like binoculars and spotting scopes, and I'm trying to think a few other items that people that bird would buy. So maybe hurry, buy those $4,000 pair of binoculars before they start taxing them. The Swarovski crystal, top of the Audubon, highest price binocular pick. Yeah. If we hear that's coming.
I know that Town Point Landing in Matthews is owned by the state. And if you launch a kayak from there, you are supposed to pay somehow, have a kayak tag or something.
Yeah.
So it's another way, that they're trying to increase revenue.
Yeah. I should note that especially in Matthews and even some in Gloucester that are on the water, these trails are not intended to be kayak trails, but some of them are at landings where there are kayak trails.
Yeah.
If you're aware of that and you're doing a site and it's not on the description on the web page for that site, that's an amenity that you may want to jot down and let them know.
Hey, you forgot this.
that hey, this is a part of the XYZ kayak trail, and give them the website.
Yep.
Kayak trail. I know Matthews has some kayak trails. I need to explore that more, but
I put together the Matthews
Yeah.
Blueways Guide 20 years ago, so I'm kind of familiar with that. But
Yeah, that's
and
like,
they have them at, they have them at the visitor center, the Tourist and Information Center. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know if they have any birding and wildlife trail guides at the
Probably not.
information center? No?
Not that I know of. I can go in there tomorrow and check.
No,
Yeah.
we have to see if we can get,
We'll
Some
see if
from
we can
Megan,
get
if we
some
can-
from Megan but yeah, we took about, what, 3 inches of them,
yeah, well,
big stack from the
borrow.
rest area on I-64.
Just
Um,
move their placement.
Yeah. Anyway, any other questions, thoughts? I will send out a link to the Google Sheets for people to update.
We will try to get you
that,
organized into groups.
And then let's say a week from today, if everyone can update their sheets if needed. If you don't need to, don't worry about it.
The Google sheet.
The Google Sheets. A week from today, we'll call that closed. That'll give Carrie and I a couple days to put together a
List.
based on all your preferences and everything, try the best possible kind of, I don't want to call it assignments, but you know, who's on what teams and what sites to cover, and we'll try to do that, lay out the whole next or the rest of this year, the calendar year maybe. So that by April 1, everyone has that. And then you can get going. You know, my perception is this form to fill out on SITSI is not that complicated. I'm thinking we can just go to where the teams get together, decide on when they want to meet at the sites or how they want to do this, and go out and just start submitting assessments. If you think you would like to have some additional on-site training, let us know. April's a little difficult for Carrie and I because we're campground hosting at Machikamiko, and I may be also on jury duty too. So
Let's just keep growing.
yeah, so it may be hard for us to get out unless you want to come and do Machikamiko's assessment. But if after that, you know, we can get out and help teams if you're struggling with it.
So is there some kind of form that we would carry with us or something, some kind of that we'd fill in?
So DWR is working on creating a document that has all the questions for the assessment, a hard, you know, or for a hard copy. There also is and I can give people the link. They have a placard that you can print out and put on your car to saying that you're doing assessments of this. We never used them. I don't know if it's, there's really no place here that you would need that to do the assessment. But it's something they had created years ago.
And I will send an email to Megan on the little glitch that I found on the SITSI app on the phone. So if anybody wants to use that, then you'll have all your questions. Should be the same exact form.
It's very
and-
similar,
and-
yeah,
Yeah, and questions on the phone,
on the app.
on the app.
But that's you know, we found that sometimes when we were doing assessments in the beta testing of the app, sometimes we did it at the site, other times we just took notes and came back, and when it was fresh in our head, filled it out online. And that's where we tested out putting it in on an app and then editing your inputs
Yeah. the beta worked
from the
fine. This
computer.
is not-
And then from this, we also go on to the Better Impact when we do these and put in our volunteer hours.
Yes, you
Correct,
do.
yeah, and so there you would include your total time
At
doing-
the site.
well,
and driving.
the pre-work before the
Right,
site,
right.
and then your driving time and then back. And
You
you
do
would
do your
assign,
driving time.
yeah, for master naturalists, am I right, Kat and Bill? You can include your driving
Yeah,
time.
yeah, okay.
Now, if you stop and have lunch for a few hours, you probably should subtract that. Unless you're watching birds at the site, then you could include it.
Travel
Only
time.
if you report it on eBird.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to put it there.
So I'm sure everybody will want hole in the wall to be added in Matthews County.
And that's something that's going to be obvious on the Better Impact where it goes under
It-
volunteer.
Yeah,
far-
it's under,
It's under
Right.
Virginia Birding, BBWT.
yeah, adopt a trail.
Yeah.
I don't have it up
Am
right
I-
now.
Am I
but
correct,
it's-
Phil and Dan?
I think so.
Hold on, let me.
I'd have to
believe it-
pull it up and look, and I
I
can't right now.
believe it's under stewardship. Actually,
Should,
if I go all the way back to the start of this, it's S0102A DWR VBWT Adopt a Trail.
I'm getting in right now.
So, yep, everyone could see this at the top.
yeah, we see your pointer.
Yep.
So
Okay,
it's DWR
Yep.
VBWT.
perfect.
And anytime anyone wants to go out and do birding at these sites, in addition to the site visits,
You can do that.
log your stuff into eBird and you can count your hours that way too.
And
That be under the same project?
um,
Well, this is more of a.
No, that would be under Audubon.
that'll
Yeah.
probably be Audubon.
That's what I figured. Thank you.
No. So I would reserve this project for the
Assessments.
doing the assessments.
Or if you get an agreement with the owner and do any stewardship, that would count under this one also.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
under Wildlife Trail, yes.
It's, if there's not another project that would also capture it, you could definitely put it under this. Any other questions? I know we're.
Okay,
heading-
I may have missed this.
Go ahead.
Just one real quick, I may have missed this. So where do we go from here? Are you assigning us the sites? Do we wait for you to assign the site for us?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you all can, when I send out, and I'll try to do it tonight, the link to the Google Sheets, if you can make the updates in there as we discussed.
And if there's any sites you prefer or.
Yeah, we have that, but
Right.
it's
Make
a,
notes.
it's especially for the people that indicated entire loops. You don't want us assigning you 13 sites to go to, that your
Yeah.
preference is only to do 5. I mean, we're going to make an assumption that if people get multiple sites assigned, they would prefer to have them close to one another, so they're not, if you signed up for all 3 loops, we're not going to assign one in King and Queen County, one in Gloucester Point, and one in Bethel Beach in Matthews. Unless you tell us that, we're going to try to do it especially with gas prices being the way they are, to have it so there's, if you put a maximum of 3, that we'll try to have them reasonably close, so you can go out, and even with the same team of people, to go out and hit those 3. So and then maybe a different quarter of the year you can move around.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to.
But if your preference is that you want to drive 40 miles to one and 30 miles to another, let us know and we'll try to accommodate that. But our assumption is people won't want that.
You get to log the mileage.
Yeah.
And
Or
you get to buy the gas.
you get a lot of hours for just driving and volunteer hours. So, yeah, but that's once we get everybody's preferences, Carrie and I will try to accommodate all the preferences and come up with something we think is logical. And if you have an issue of what we put out, let us know. We can revise it.
Yes, and we're planning to start in the second quarter of the year because the initial assessments were done in the first quarter.
Yep.
So,
And the initial assessments originally on the Gloucester and Matthews loops, they were done a year and a half ago.
yeah, we
And,
updated it.
and so rather than, they wanted us to put all that into sit size. So rather than doing them completely over again, because they were,
They were
freshly done, we just put that in and did a quick checkup. Carrie drove around all the sites and made sure everything was correct. And so, because those initial assessments are, especially when they haven't been done in 20 years or never been done, they can be very, you can spend 5-6 hours or more on individual sites.
I'm just trying to figure out who
Yeah,
is
who
responsible
owns
for
it, tracking them down, and it's a pain. So that's something that Jimmy and Dan and Hurricane and a few others, I think Andy, will have fun doing in Mattaponi. And they have,
He's smiling.
yeah, they have 1 quarter to get that done, so then we can open up the seasonal visits, right?
They're gonna,
Right, Jimmy?
as long as they need to get that done.
So,
Let me shut my camera off so that I can speak normally. Go ahead, Susan.
So it occurred to me that with Brent and Becky's bulbs, the Bird Club visits Brent and Becky's bulbs about every other month.
yep,
So, and most of the people in that group are master naturalists. So, we could, as a group, be assigned Brent and Becky's.
okay,
Somebody else has just got a, burning desire. I mean, it's a large piece of property.
yeah.
And so that's what I would
Got
suggest.
added.
Pardon?
I was so glad to see that added.
Yeah. It was literally today when it went
Yeah,
live.
yeah.
So we will we'll put you down. I hear you volunteering for that, Susan.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
She's,
no,
she's there.
you're there.
we're there anyway.
Yeah.
Not every single month, but certainly once a quarter, we're going to be
Yep.
there.
Right.
How about their Airbnb? Is that included?
Who's Airbnb? I
Brent and Becky.
didn't know they had one.
Yeah, it's down on their farm. It's their old house.
Okay, well,
And it's a beautiful birding place.
We did not talk to them about
No.
that, but we could definitely mention
Well,
it.
and they may not want
Yeah, they not.
people.
I
to-
would suggest that you don't use that
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
unless they say that they should, because that's down on their farm and it's,
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's just the area.
maybe for now, just skip that. But I mean,
At the business
it's a
there.
possibility for later on.
Yeah. And if you all see other sites that aren't on this that you think should be added, there is a whole separate process. It was a year ago when we first reached
Yes.
out to Brent and Becky, so
Yes.
it took an
Takes time.
entire year. And you can help the site owner, but the site owner is the one that actually has to submit the application. Machi Kamiko was started last summer,
It's taken
and it was
about a year.
finally added earlier this week.
Mhm.
So not that it should take that long, but it's and The other thing is on the website, the maps for the individual loops have not been updated yet. They are waiting till all of the assessments of all of the loops in the entire state are done, because they have a contractor that updates the maps, so they want to do them all at once. And so,
The Google Maps are now right.
no, but I'm talking about the visual map on the
Yeah, yeah,
birding and wildlife trail loop page.
yes.
You know, so some of the ones that were removed are still on, and the
Yes,
new ones
yes.
are not, don't show up, you know, on the